Today on Isn't It?
God damn it, Micah. Would you just stay out of other people's... Would you just stay out of other people's
This is
intros?
my cold open. Okay, Micah, continue.
So
Don't give this up. Don't. You're not allowed. No. Phil. Phil. You have to assert your cold open.
Okay.
So Command & Conquer 3
God
is
damn
not
it.
just a...
Command & Conquer is just not as good as
I give
StarCraft.
up.
Alright, that's just all I'm going to have to say.
Command & Conquer 3... Was it Command & Conquer Red Alert? Whichever one had Tim Curry in it was...
Red Alert.
Oh my god, so amazing. What?
Red Alert 2.
Was that Red Alert 2?
I think so.
We
I'm
will
just
go
saying
to
it
the
confident.
only place. Spies! That was so great.
I do feel like 4X and... Like, what do they call that?
No, it's RTS. It's not 4X.
Yeah, but the concept of these type of games, I feel like, are very 4X of expand, extract, and...
No, but it's RTS.
Explore.
It's not like one of the hallmarks of 4X is it's turn-based. It's
Oh,
like
is
you're
that
playing
right?
a board game. Because
Okay.
you're, Caverna is a 4X. Even though you're not really exploring, you're still exploiting. And you're still expanding.
I was just going to tie in this to, like, this is capitalism, right? Like, this is why it feels so fun to play StarCraft. Because it just feels like you're just exploiting the resources for your own very good game.
This is why I like
No, it's
Stardew
imperialism.
Valley.
Oh, you're right, it is.
Yeah, it's not capitalism. You're not producing anything for someone else to sell. Nobody trades in...
Zerglings.
Nobody trades in Age of Empire, even though you're given trading posts. Nobody establishes an economy where they trade.
No.
Nobody sends, hey, yeah, I'm England, but you, Germany, like Teuton Knights, do you want to trade some stuff?
Yeah.
Why did you, all of your, why is my trader dead?
Traders!
Longbowmen, go! And then halfway across the map, you just destroy them.
This is why I really like Sins of a Solar Empire. Like, I just really like that game. And
It's fun.
moving on. Welcome to Isn't It Obvious with your host Philip and Micah and Sera joining me for this very wonderful, silly topic that we have today, which is, isn't it obvious that we should rename the Cold War to Cold War One?
No.
No, because it's just... if there's a 2 coming up...
No, we're...
It's not a 2. It's just a continuation.
No, we're already ensconced in 2 and Russia isn't our adversary.
It really should be Cold War One.
No, but it's not, because this is not, in terms of World War One and World War Two, only America calls it World War Two.
True.
All of Europe calls it the end of World War One.
Yeah.
Delta Crisis.
Yeah, it was, there was a from Europe, so many wars. But the time between 1919 and 1937 was merely a rebuilding period, and Europe has built around a rebuilding period between mass slaughter amongst men that give the orders that will never risk their lives and their cannon fodder.
Okay, fair enough for Europe to call it whatever they want to, since we all know
Since we don't
that
give a fuck
we
about
don't
what
give
other
a fuck.
people think.
When you're on the top of the hill, you get to dictate what things are called.
Or you just call them whatever the fuck you want, and people have to just deal with that.
Yes, because you're at the top of the hill.
I mean, even if you're not on the top of the hill, who's going to tell you that you have to call it something else?
So the Civil War was definitely the war of northern aggression.
I was gonna say that.
Have we stopped the South from actually saying that?
No.
I feel
Just
that
saying.
we shamed them, and
Have
I feel
we?
our
Do
national
they have
curriculum...
shame? Aren't they just...
They don't. They have a lot of pride. I'll say that much. So if we were able to,
I
shame
feel
Let
like
me
they
tell you, if
still-
Robert E. Lee was alive today and we put him in Afghanistan...
Isn't it obvious? You can call things whatever you want, and you're just going to call them that thing. And not many people are going to stop you,
And
even
that's
if you're
why
wrong.
so
Even
many
if
people
you're
say
wrong.
the N-word.
Even if you're wrong. Yeah.
I was gonna say it should be called Cold War One. I mean, we say it in America World War One for whatever reason. I think it was
Because
actually
we
originally-
weren't involved in it, and
yeah.
we were involved in what was the inevitable outcome because the Treaty of Versailles was fucking dumb.
The most, what was it? Our involvement was
Weimar
really...
Republic was very progressive.
Wasn't our just involvement
They were always
basically
progressive.
just shoveling
No,
weapons to our allies?
That was how World War II, that's how we acted in the 30s before we got involved after Pearl Harbor.
Okay.
But that was part of how we got into it in mid-teens. But we did have a tangible military force in 18 and 19. We suffered 400,000 casualties?
Yeah, it wasn't a trivial amount.
No, but it was also like America didn't come in and be like, why the fuck are you guys just marching over this 2 mile that you give back and forth? They were just like, well, yeah, we got guys for you.
Yeah, there's a...
It wasn't a strategic plan because we were still following Britain's lead.
Yeah, no, we've never been very strategic. I mean, maybe we have, but I haven't seen it. We just sort of go in and we think we know what we're doing, but I don't know what we actually know.
We didn't have the arrogance to call the shots in the 19 teens because we were not a superpower.
True.
After the teens, we grew, we dealt with the Great Depression, so that really kind of knocked us back a peg. But then, why we call it World War II is because that was the war that we won. Because if Hitler had any bit of smarts and wasn't taking meth, he would have just conquered Western Europe and been fine with it.
Absolutely could have if there was...
Yeah.
Less
he had
issues.
Conquered Western Europe.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, no, we will fuck over Russia.
Okay, first
and
of
that
all...
was your first mistake. Well, it's everyone's first mistake.
That's everyone's first mistake.
And last mistake.
Yeah, you never have a ground war in Russia.
You just don't. Yeah,
everyone seems to forget this, except for Russia.
Yeah, Russia's sitting there like, go ahead, try it.
Really?
Try it.
The only reason why that is because Russians are there, but they have a 1,000-year history of losing to foreign invaders that would just give up, and then Russia would have to rebuild.
Yeah, basically.
Well, they're good at...
Because Russia's a miserable place.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all...
Most of the
it's
anyway.
Canada, but with 100 million people.
It's really amazing how a lot of world history, from like the ethnocentric perspective, we don't call China because...
The Eurocentric.
The Eurocentric. Yeah. Is really Russia is involved, no matter what. There's a Russia involved. Like from Napoleon Wars to like even before then, 100 years before then, I think it was like
you would think Russia would just learn.
Most
just abstain.
No,
the establishment of the Silk Road was a safe passage around Russia because Russia would fight back if you tried to make trade routes through Russia.
Yeah, these guys...
Because the Golden Horde would just go in, wreck a city, and leave nothing. And then be like, we're going to go home now. And then just a bunch of different Russians would come in, rebuild it. Then, Kublai Khan would be like, we're going to destroy it. And then, we're going to go back home.
What is the joke? Like, and then things got worse. It's like you can explain that for all of Russian history.
Wait, there's more.
Yeah. But wait, there's more, and then things got worse. But I feel like when I have conversations with other folks about World War II, and then it's like, and then America won, and then now we're here today, in in the year 2021, just doing stuff, and it's really funny because the people I'm talking to or with are 30-some-year-old, and I'm like, there's a lot that happened between the end of 1945 and today, right? Like there's a lot of activities that occurred from the Korean War to Vietnam.
The primary one is America hasn't won an armed conflict since.
Yeah.
Really, right? Other than Desert Storm, which
wasn't really a win. We sure stopped the invasion of Kuwait by the Iraqis, but we didn't reform the Iraqi government.
Is that really our responsibility, though?
If we're going off the ideology of what we did in World War II, and that is our backbone for our military interaction with sovereign nations, yes.
Okay, did we go in and establish governance though in these? Did we? Where?
Yeah. In Japan and
all of
Germany.
all of Western Germany, all of Japan, we firmly took them out of their authoritarian. Even though Japan still has an empire, they went whole hog into capitalism. Same thing with Western Germany.
Yeah, but we didn't stick around.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
no, you're right. We do have military bases in Japan.
And Japan.
And Japan still...
I lied. We do.
Does Japan still have their military reduction in place?
Yeah, for whatever. That's a joke, but yes.
Well, no, I thought they voted against it because of China's growing aggression.
Right. I suppose most recently they're trying to rearm. But
I don't know enough.
The problem I have is with this example is that Japan and Germany were both empires in their own right before things kind of hit the fan for them. So then when you take off the people on the top and just replace it with your own people, it's like a very easy way to just say, okay, well, the bureaucracy of the system still works.
But that is not necessarily how it worked in Eastern Germany, where Russia really had to clamp down with an iron fist in order to impose their communist ideology with that and all of the Eastern Bloc.
Yeah, I feel like just because
capitalism was a quicker transition in terms of rebuilding the populace.
Yeah, because people
communism
want money and they're
and
whereas
plus,
if you want to get back to normal as soon as possible, you just have to kind of take a capitalism.
Communism is a little harder to implement.
Like I think you need capitalism around for a while for communism to be a viable alternative. You can't start at communism.
No, because people are intrinsically selfish,
Yep.
which is freaking adaptable. Like that's an adaptive trait.
One of the things about Germany and Japan is that their development was very different. And this is kind of stems straight from the Cold War One. Because, like, the Marshall Plan really helped Germans out, and the idea of that, I guess, is self-explanatory.
But that was also learning from the failures of the Versailles Treaty.
But, like...
Where you can't penalize the aggressor nation, or not the aggressor nation, the losing nation. Even though Germany was the aggressor, because they tried to go whatever.
They did.
But the idea here is that, like, they had a very direct, here's that, we're going to helicopter money to you assholes, and enjoy... Whereas Italy and Japan didn't have that luxury. So one of the jokes is who won the Vietnam War? It was who won the Korean War, actually, was the question. This is the question. The punchline is Italy and Japan. Yeah. Because America was like, oh, fuck, let's get out of the ammunitions and armament game, as silly as that sounds. We're going to concentrate on warplanes, but we're not on the sillier, smaller stuff. And we're going to really make refrigerators and pickup trucks. Yeah. But it's like, well, who's going to make all this shitty stuff that's dangerous? I don't know. Hi, Italy and Japan, can you guys pick up the slack? And so they went from simple, like, whatever you call those, weaving technology, which is like in the game of civilization, the very base foundation of how you have a
more
factory.
Advanced than that. Japan learned a lot from American manufacturing when they went on their rampage through most of Asia, right?
No, it wasn't until Deming came in and showed them American manufacturing techniques in the 50s and 60s that they actually became worth a damn.
I thought they picked up on, and that's why they just...
And then they ran with it.
Then they actually
ran with it, and then they've surpassed.
Right. They actually... Japan's copied two things for the American system during the time, which was manufacturing quality from Deming, a quality engineer, but none of the people in America gave a shit about quality. But he actually had a lot of the statistics and methods to back it up, and principles. And then Japan's like, oh, we'll just fucking put this on steroids. Italy's just Italy, so whatever.
Yeah.
But they both got a
as long as they can wave their hands, they'll do whatever.
They both got a shit ton of money just on selling arms, which is a really good way to get a good manufacturing base, right? And so did Germany, but we don't talk about them in that regard. And so who won the Korean War? It was Japan and Italy.
And a bit of China. That gave Maoist China a good backbone to actually throw their weight around.
Who lost the Korean War? Definitely the Chinese citizens and the 50 million that starved under his terrible policies of agriculture. We don't talk about that. So then,
we kill all the sparrows, then we have locusts. But the sparrows ate the... Wait a minute.
How dare you question me? To the re-education camps. So then the joke of who won the Vietnam War. It's like, so who won the war in Vietnam? It's like, it was Korea. Because they also did a lot of small arm manufacturing for the American war base. So it's like, okay, then who benefited from the next war, right? Like, all of these I shouldn't say small wars, but they're proxy
wars between the ideological fight between capitalism and communism.
There are certainly wars from the Cold War, right? This is why I feel like it should.
But it's not between, we're not having proxy wars between the U.S. and China now. We're having disputes about territory, but with China really embracing capitalism from 80s.
This is why it really bothers me when we talk about what proxy war means and what Cold War means, right? So proxy wars, I think, are part of the Cold War, but they just got warm. Not hot, because that's when shit really hits the fan.
Right.
Yeah, you just cranked it up a notch on your stovetop.
Yeah, but really the Cold War is about Taiwan, right? Which is like America just giving them a shit ton of fighters and anti-aircraft weapons and anti-ship weapons.
But we still politically agree with the one nation ideology that China views Taiwan as part of China.
We don't agree, but we just say, look, we like your money. We kind of we'll just turn the other way when you say shit like that. But hey, Taiwan, would you like F-35 Lightning Raptor?
Yeah,
shit?
That's more
this costs us $1 trillion.
F-35s.
Whatever it is.
22s. We give the old schools.
We give them a lot of weapons. Let's just say it that way. China did actually try to do an invasion of Taiwan, and America sent in warships.
We're like, no, because Taiwan's our ally, and fuck right off.
But that wasn't,
then
China wasn't going to go to a hot war over Taiwan in that situation.
Like, they want Taiwan, but Taiwan
in a poker setting, they made a big bet, and America was like, all in. Like, snap all in. Like, if you're going to do it, but you're going to deal with all of us.
What helped was Taiwan Air Force totally trounced the shitty Chinese airplanes.
Oh god, they did try like a land invasion, didn't they?
Yes. And then they lost air control almost immediately to nice Taiwanese jets that came from the American West Coast. So, like, these are weird events that occurred back, like, 60 years ago that we don't talk about today because they're just part of the Cold War I, which has a ton of history about why we live in this shitty environment that we do today. Things from, like, obviously Afghanistan is part of the Cold War I.
Yeah.
And things all the way from Kosovo and Somalia all tie in to what the fuck are we doing here in a Cold War. And then it stops in 1991, allegedly, right? And then it's like, oh, we won, prosperity for everybody, pull everything out, all the diplomats, go fuck yourselves. And then we get into a shitstorm that is in the early 2000s because we weren't anticipating all of the blowback of all the sins we committed. And this is not even mentioning...
Consequences.
Consequences.
What are these?
I didn't even talk about all of South America. Like, that is just... I'm not even touching that.
We don't talk about South Texas.
We don't talk... Okay. So... This is why I'm like, this deserves its own era of, wow, that was fucked up. But we just say, oh, it's just Cold War. And that implies we don't live in it today in a different sequel, which we do.
I feel that putting those clauses on saying, like, what if that was Cold War I? Mm-hmm. What is Cold War II?
So
has it ended? Is there a clear time frame? We didn't call World War II when we were sending soldiers over there in 1942.
No.
We did not.
It's true.
And that was something that happened after the end of that conflict happened.
We
so if 91
to after we decided there was two distinct
right.
America saw it as two distinct wars.
It was where we participated and where we won.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because the armistice, even though it was brokered by Wilson and he won the Peace Prize for it, was not... that was League of Nations.
Well, I mean, he got his knees cut from under him on that one.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
League of Nations is a bad idea anyway. It's like having a Security Council that is immutable. It's very dumb.
Anyway. Cries.
Also part of Cold War I.
So if you're putting Cold War I as the end of the fall of the Soviet Union in 91, which actually happened in 90.
Yeah.
Like the proper dissolution of it was 91, but it was collapsing from really post-Chernobyl.
Yes.
Like that 5 years when the satellite nations lost faith in central office in Moscow.
Right.
But that is not including the communist identity of early Bolshevik revolutionaries into Maoist China. And that is a continuation of it. This can still be considered the Cold War. It's just, it's not communist Russia we're worried about. It's the communist capitalist China that has transitioned with that same type of authoritarianism. We're still all big bullies that don't care about who we hurt, and we're just trying to have our little cronies fight each other. That hasn't changed. So we're still
the
in
US,
the World
Russia,
War.
and China.
I do think we're still
the big players.
The three.
Yeah. But also, like, Europe throws its weight around. That doesn't always align with American wants and desires, but they're still using and exploiting underdeveloped nations. Yeah. I'm not absolving
they're like
all of us have sinned.
They're like a second tier bully.
Yeah.
And we're just the assholes on top.
It's the right hand that goes, yeah, right, boss? Yeah. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Although it's French or Italian or, I don't know.
Yeah.
What is stereotypical Europe? I should go Romance language? No. Yeah. But is this... What we're currently in is, like, if our great villain was the Soviet Union, and in 91 that is the cessation, is this not the Weimar Republic? But it's more complicated because it's not just about boots on the ground. We have to deal with economic warfare, we have to deal with information warfare, we have to deal with financial warfare. So now it's become more complicated. Is that not just a mere evolution of that Cold War?
I would say that
it's new tactics.
It is same war, new tactics, and we're always fighting the last war is the trope, right? Mm-hmm. So, but I honestly...
Wait, we're still fighting Afghanistan?
So
Who knows?
but we always gear up to fight the last war is the idea.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that 91 is a clear break we're in the.
So it was clear American hegemony across
Yes,
the world?
it was a monopole at that point that America called all the shots. We didn't allow China into the World Trade Organization until the late 90s, right? And so America didn't really have at the time people thought, oh, maybe the UN is going to be the adversary, but we are the fucking, we are part of the UN, assholes. So in Germany...
And yet not.
And the European Union was still kind of collectively trying to get into the Euro, so you can kind of see that, this was the Weimar part of...
You had the Triple EC in the mid-70s.
Right.
But the EU sure wasn't... It's easily tradable until the late 90s, early aughts, but all those agreements were in place.
Yes.
The domino was kicked, it just needed time.
You could see the formations occurring that are gearing up for the Cold War too, right? That this is kind of like that restful time where, there was this big clash. It's finally we can declare a winner, and then what's going on now?
Phil's being a predictor of we're gonna end up in a new era of
warfare,
and
stupid warfare.
I'm
and it's gonna be a Cold War. It's not gonna be.
No, it's gonna be the same proxy war bullshit.
That's what I'm saying. It's not gonna be. It's not gonna be direct. It's gonna be very indirect. It's gonna be chill but insidious. It's informational and economic warfare. That's
I think
what
it
it's
might
gonna
be more detrimental because it's gonna be about trade.
That's
it's not
what,
about
that's what I'm saying.
Violence.
It's not gonna be people fighting with guns and planes. It's going to be economic
information. There will be some people doing with that, but it's more so.
But that'll almost be more civil stuff. Because it's gonna be instigated by outside actors fucking with the information like they're doing now, and spreading misinformation and trying to make a wedge in civil. They're gonna try to make people eat themselves from the inside.
Yeah.
Is what we are doing, and by we I mean
no. Well, it's not what we are doing because I don't think America has invested as much.
True,
in
we don't
that
care.
Type of
We don't care enough about what's going on in other countries.
We built our own house of cards, and our adversaries are poking at it. Given our last 12 years of national politics.
It's extremely effective. This is why I think when we say the Cold War, we think about it as not a continuation anymore. Because the argument I would see here is that you shouldn't call it Cold War I because we're still in the Cold War. It's many people would argue that we're in the age of that's Cold War was James Bond and GoldenEye and silly things of that nature. No, but the Cold
War was it is what we are fighting now. They just didn't have the internet. They had to do a different way of seeding misinformation as well as posturizing and their use of propaganda.
Yeah.
That hasn't changed. That's my argument for that we're still in that Cold War.
No, that's why I think it's definitely a Cold War II is where we're in today. Cold War I is why I want to rename it Cold War I because then it assumes that we are in a Cold War II.
No, but again, when America was in 1942 with boots on the ground in Europe, we didn't call it World War II.
No. You
cannot have a 1 and a 2 if the 2 hasn't ended.
Fair enough.
True, but Phil's predicting future
right now. Yeah, right.
He's we are entering what will eventually be
And
called
we should name the previous one definitely
Cold War I.
But we can't
do that now because then that puts a whole different implication and different view on how we are viewing international politics now.
Because
now we're buddy-buddy.
You
can't say that the fact that the White House and Beijing haven't talked in any meaningful extent in the last year.
Yeah, sure, that's healthy.
Super healthy
superpowers. With nukes pointing at each other.
First and second economy in the world.
That's totally reasonable, right? When trading partners don't talk at all ever for a year. That's like working on a school project and you don't even talk to them.
That's how I got through high school. All right,
just let the people who know what they're doing.
I'll give me a B and call it good.
I do think though the reason why we should call it Cold War I is because it does mean that we are in a Cold War II, and it is distinctly different. Just like how you mentioned that when you have new fronts available, that kind of describes a continuation, but also an evolution of that war. So World War I, for the most part, was fought 2D with naval ships and trenches, and you have the Red Baron and his biplane, and then you go to World War II and then you can clearly see that there is another dimension here, right? Like suddenly air superiority and aircraft
But not
carriers.
if you break it down to who the combatants are.
Well-
like if you take out the Pacific Theater, because that was just America involving themselves in a different empire's war because of treaties half a world apart.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I
the
love
fact
those trade
that
treaties.
Germany was like, we might get to the Pacific at some point, and Japan was like, we like you because you will give us some financial support, and we can implode our economy by overinflating everything in order to conquer land that you will never see.
Yeah, because it's the world's really big back
Right.
then. Not so much now.
And like that tying in the Pacific
still
Theater
pretty
to Europe is so loose, I wouldn't want to pull it if it was a hair in my head.
I actually think that the air war for Britain was big. Like, the dimension of the war was a new front for air.
But not who the combatants are.
Well, true, but as far as the fronts go, like in... Because you asked, well, what is the new war we're fighting, right?
Information.
So,
Because
information,
Propaganda.
cyber,
Post World War II,
cyberspace,
Well, and trading.
what you
and
want,
trade.
but what you want to call Cold War I was and is the same type of war we're still fighting now. We are not going to have giant France versus Germany slug fights with French and German fighters sacrificing lives just to kill each other over the Maginot Line. That is not going to happen. That was never going to happen between America and Russia. You would never have a ground war where either is invading either country.
Yeah, because
that was
we
never
don't
a threat.
want- we don't. Yeah, it's an ideal. It's ideological.
It's
thing.
ideological, and it's
That's
a
why
sphere
it's
of
information
Yeah.
and economic.
And
it's not
even
land.
with the sphere of influence shifting, it's still a sphere of influence fight. So that hasn't changed. The adversaries haven't really changed because it's still a sphere of influences. Russia is still trying to give its proxies. China has been the new combatant that has popped in, but still is the same ideological discrepancies against America. Even though America has made a lot of caveats because we thought we could flip them on our side.
Well,
but
we think a lot. Well, do we think?
That supports the fact that it's Cold War II now.
I agree. I agree that we're in the midst of Cold War II, like what Phil's saying. I just think you're also right that we wouldn't call it Cold War II yet until it's completed its cycle or whatever it's going to be. Like until we reached another pause or we reach another end-ish point. Where
Traditionally
it's-
speaking.
I will give the caveat of
That is
Cold
wrong.
War.
just like Europe doesn't call it World War I and II, like we call it 1 and 2. They just call it the World War.
Yeah.
It's the
Same
Great War and then the end of the Great War.
Yeah, which
Like the 100 Years
We're-
War went for 127 years.
we've got Cold War I in American. This is an Americanese right now.
This is American.
Pretty much,
Yeah.
We
Cold War
are-
One, we're in a pause of economic growth and whatever prosperity,
Technological
and then
advances.
and then technological advances, and then fuck all, and then now we're in like the second part of it.
We're in Cold War II, people.
Yeah, it's the same ideological fight. I would agree if your end of the Cold War I was like Russians' acceptance and propagation of capitalism, because the ideological war, in air quotes, was capitalism versus communism. It was whether the people had an inherent right to the means of production, or if it was all meant to be what people are risking and putting in, and that is your basis for your economy.
Can't we have like a hybrid? Can't we just have like a nice little
China?
socialist?
Yeah, because
But China's
China's
terrible.
done great.
Yeah,
China has done great.
you know. It's,
Yes, through slave labor.
yes.
Yes.
Under the guise of communism.
Yeah.
Even though they're a capitalist fucking country.
Yeah.
Which
it's
blows my
disgusting.
mind.
They're just taking a page of our history.
Yeah.
Kind
They're like,
of.
well, we're going to do what the fucking America did. Yeah. What do we care?
Only better and worse at the same time.
Yeah.
Social credit.
Better because
Yes.
we won't care about international backlash.
Yep,
And better
worse.
because we make more money as a central government.
And worse because it's way more insidious and no one's gonna stop us.
I do feel like that is...
We need...
Because unfortunately, you need people to stop themselves at this point.
No, you need people to stop people
That's
who
what I
can't
mean.
stop themselves,
Well-
which is going to require bloodshed.
Yeah.
My 80 to 20%
Probably.
hypothesis is based on population. That 20% in terms of economic power has 90% of the power in the world.
Yeah. I guess
Workers make up
way more than that, but
nothing.
yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's true.
That 20% is such a fucking oligarchy that it is disgusting. And I want this world to die because I don't see how we get better. Because we don't have a fucking replicator. I wish Star Trek was true because part of Star Trek is in the early 21st century, we had gigantic eugenic wars. That was the darkest time in human history until someone made a replicator that would break down atoms to make anything.
Yeah, I think that
We will
the
never get to that
replicator
fucking
will never
point.
get to that point.
No, we're dead. I'm very black-pilled. I don't want to be super depressing. We are fucked as a species.
I would disagree on one
Yeah.
major reason is that people tend to game theory wise do suboptimal moves, and we don't know why. We talked about it when we play. We don't play Settlers of Catan, but if we did, you would expect everyone to be rational, and that would mean that even if you get the best move possible, and it hurts your opponent, that you would always place that move, but people don't.
No, because, Phil, I don't like that you blocked my road. Sarah, would you like my 9 sheep, 8 wood, and 4 stone?
Yeah, fuck you, Phil.
Yeah.
Right. That's
Yeah, I'll
fine.
take
But
those
it's not
resources.
just because of spite, which I think is a powerful motivation engine.
No, but those type of suboptimal actions are a part of human nature of spite.
Well, no, yeah, don't get me wrong. Spite is a very part of my way I live. But
Spite is useless.
But
Disagrees.
the reason why I think that people genuinely band together is because human effort, when combined, is greater than if it's separate. So the whole of the sum is way better than just the sum of all of its parts. If I could put it very crudely, if every human was like a car, and then you put all the cars together, they would go all much faster if they drift together.
Sure, but you still have other humans that steal your catalytic converter.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah.
That being said, though, of your 80-20 and fuck humanity, I agree, but
80% will make it go 120% faster, but 20% will
Well,
cut
I
down
think-
that production
I
to
think
40%.
really what Phil's trying to say is we're not as black-pilled as
No.
Micah is. I kind of tend to assume that humanity is gonna still hit its struggles. I mean, we may destroy ourselves. It's very
No,
possible.
we're going to.
I don't see. I think we're very bad predictors. I don't think I can say with certainty. Oh, we're gonna destroy ourselves. But it's a possibility, a very likely possibility.
I mean, it is kind of happening right now.
It is kind of happening.
With the fires
We're in
and
the
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 films.
fires and the floods and
The
the
droughts.
and
The collapse of the
fine
ecosystem.
Atlantic jet
But-
stream.
But
I
that
mean,
isn't to say
these are
there's
true
no
realities.
possibility of surviving or having humanity may still survive. It may not be the humanity we have now. It may collapse as far as society goes, but humans may still exist beyond
Sure.
that and survive beyond
But
that.
those humans that survive beyond whatever inevitable ecological collapse we're going to go through, they're
Potentially.
going to go through.
Potentially go through or
Going to.
survive. I mean, we
But
might come up
those
with
that
some
survive are suddenly ingrained
strategies.
with our stupid tribalism because we don't look at other people as human beings. We don't. We have our stupid small tribes that aren't going to go away.
Yeah, that's actually one of the scariest things about this type of Cold War II, which was at least in Cold War I, the enemy was very, very propaganda based.
Mm-hmm.
It's those guys. Those guys.
No, it still is.
No,
Yes.
I would
Yes.
disagree because the enemy today is better a Russian than a Democrat.
Yeah, it's
No, but that's still us versus them.
yes, but
The
it's
them is different
but
now.
it's
And
self
us is different
But
now.
Micah, but the us versus them is different in that it is all us.
But
We
it's-
are eating ourselves
We are
alive.
eating ourselves.
That's the information war that
Yeah.
the them who is in the them and the actors under under the veil or whatever, they're instigating a division
Okay, you are.
in
Sure,
us.
sure.
There's a
Okay.
different tactic here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if we break down the original tactics that started the Cold War One,
Thank you.
give you that caveat, of the communist authoritarian Russia
Mm-hmm.
against the capitalistic democratic Republic of America.
What? Yep.
What is the current war against? The current war is against the democratic Republic West and the authoritarian East.
Yeah.
That hasn't changed. The adversaries have not changed.
This is true, but the tactics used right now has changed, and they are dividing from within. So it's making us care less about the adversary of the East.
No, but
And it's the adversary of the right versus left
Yeah.
ideological.
No,
And
it's
those dirty
the same,
neutral
no,
people.
it's the same. It's all a matter of who has power. And
Yes, but we're not fighting Russia. We're fighting Republicans, and by
We
we,
are
I mean the
no,
Democrats, right?
Yes. Yeah.
we are fighting people who want the power to dictate what other people can do is in the hands of the few, not the many. That is the same ideological fight that Cold War I was.
I wish that was the case, Micah. I really do. But it's clear that, sorry to cut you off, guys, but we don't have much time left, that people clearly fight against their own interests. I don't know why, but like you have large parts of the South that certainly rank the lowest of all states in education and health outcomes and quality of life and housing and everything you can think of that would make a good think of for Mississippi jokes, right? And they don't have any power. Those people in the bottom rungs of society that live terrible and don't have a lot of economic opportunity, they don't certainly seem to have much going for them, and yet they vote consistently against their best interests, and people are like, well, you're just being a jackass for saying that. You don't know how they live. And it's like, well, objectively, I'm not. Like, these people would be way better off with policies that the liberals are providing them, whether it be job training or just having the ability to go to an industry that's still surviving. But nope, they want to stick to their coal mines that has less people than employees of Best Buy.
I can understand that ideologically, though. Like,
you could go with the smaller car.
I can understand though not wanting.
Not that many people for coal minings.
I legit can understand that idea. Like I can understand that. I do. Like I don't. Clearly, those people don't really care if they were better off. They just want to live their lives without interference. That's what they think is better off. They might be actually better off if they would just vote in their best interest for these liberal policies. They don't care about that. They just don't want to be told what to do.
I think they don't care about it. Agreed. They don't care about having power either.
Yeah, it's
unless it's like cultural power of just prestige.
They don't want to tell other people what to do either. They just want to live their lives.
The 80-20.
The 80-20. But that's the thing is that
except for when they're women and they're baby making machines, and then they care.
That's still enforced with the 20 because no father, if their daughter were raped, would want their daughter to bring that child to term. But if it's somebody else's daughter, then they're expressing some type of authority over someone else.
This is what I'm saying is that just like in the game of Settlers Catan, just like what you would expect these
suboptimal moves.
Mm-hmm.
They're not, but they're so bad, and they're not rational characters or rational actors, I should say. And yet, like when we say, well, the reason why we're eating ourselves on from the inside out is because they want more power, and they have rightfully have discovered that the left is their enemy, and the left thinks that the right is their enemy, and that power dynamic is always the same in human nature. But I would argue that no, like the things that we like, the 80% of what you're saying just basically want the same, to live life with a certain amount of dignity and to have food and hot dogs, and that's pretty much it.
But apparently no buns.
But apparently buns may be or may not be optional.
2 less buns,
which is a bit odd, but fine. I'm a libertarian, I guess.
The world is a better place for we had 2 octopus hot dogs a year.
Yep.
The 20% that actually have all the, I agree with you 100%. It's not the 1% or the 0.1% as the many economics.
No, you need the sycophants that don't have access to 1%, that want to have access to 1%, and they feel that abiding by the 1% is going to get them there. That's the 19%.
Yeah, a lot of the social woes of having suburbs, doing redlining practices, of just having segregation policies and being against a lot of these nice, things for the greater of the population is really done by the majority of the 20%. They vote for their wallets, and they vote for trying to keep themselves enriched. Even though they don't really make that much, to be honest. The 20% don't really make that much compared to the 50th percentile. But anyway, compared to the 0.1.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I feel like the essential values of being an American, which is, fuck you, I got mine, but I guess I'll help you out sometimes. That is quickly disappearing. And I don't really know why.
I have a theory.
Uh-oh.
At post-1991, when Cold War I ended, who was our adversary? Who was America's other?
Liberals.
No.
And conservatives.
Yeah.
It was, instead of America dictating policy to the world, we had to turn that mirror on ourselves.
Yeah.
And we did not like what we had done. And we have spent the last 30 years trying to reckon that. And
there's no give on either.
To go to the 80-20, 20% kind of can agree on something, and 80% are fucking all over the board.
Yeah.
It's the inverse of that, because they can't deal with all of the propaganda that got us to win Cold War I.
Yep.
And now we're reckoning that, and we can't understand it. That is why we will take the positions of a former comedian and shit actor who does commentary on MMA over people who have spent their lives in the medical field.
But that's one of the things that I feel like is crazy. I like Joe Rogan in news radio, by the way, but
that was the peak. That was peak Joe Rogan.
Oh, yeah, that was. He was great.
He was a himbo that would say funny things and not act because he can't act.
I know.
And then he would leave the scene.
Yeah.
And people would be like, what?
He was great.
And then comedy would happen.
He was well casted.
Yeah, because Phil Hartman would come in and just like fucking crack a home run.
Yeah, sad story for Phil Hartman. Andy Dick can go. Okay, wait, no,
anyway.
no violence.
His wife was from my hometown.
Yeah. So my thought of this is that I think the real downfall of us being at each other's throats isn't because it was destined to happen. I do agree that it was an ugly look in the mirror for us.
If you spend most of a century focused on an other, and then that other doesn't exist, that aggression has to go somewhere.
I'm just gonna agree with Sera. It's the modern media and the push from like the folks of Cambridge Analytica and the operatives are sending out fake news. Well, that's what it was.
Or it's exacerbating news.
But is that not? Did we not run into these same types of misinformation when we don't talk about Korea as we should talk about Korea? We have MASH. We don't talk about Vietnam as we should talk about Vietnam. We have media. We've been dealing with a way of insulating ourselves from our failures for 50 years. And when we didn't have an other of which to blame it on, where does that blame and anger go? It can only go back in because there is no outlet. We are not dealing with the shit we have done.
Well, okay.
And we are still fucking blaming people.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, I don't think you're 100% wrong, but I also don't think you're 100% right.
That's what I'm aiming for.
Because I do think, in a way, America tried to solve this problem of, like, the internal ideological fight that we are having right now by trying to go and make up a war, basically, in Afghanistan. Like, that's kind of what we did. I mean, it wasn't 100% there, because they did actually...
The makeup in Iraq is a better point.
Yeah, but I agree with you.
Because we totally fucking made that up.
Yeah, like, weapons of mass destruction that didn't kind of exist, sort of thing.
I mean, we did that same shit in Afghanistan.
But we continued this war, in a way, I think, for 20 years to no profit because we didn't want to deal with our own...
Yeah.
We didn't want to look at why we were attacked. We just wanted to punch who attacked us.
Yeah.
And we didn't care who was surrounding that one kid who threw that cupcake at us in the dining hall.
Yeah,
we only care that we are inflicting pain upon someone else.
We are only going to stick the fork that we have grabbed from our place setting into whoever we think threw that cupcake, and a few maybe other people who are nearby where we think that cupcake may have come from.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying is that I don't think it's just that either, though. I do think social media, and I do think the Cold War is a continuation. I do think other countries are using social media tactfully.
I do not doubt that
to exacerbate that problem.
Aggressive use of misinformation is happening.
To be honest, I think in a way, like, yes, they're doing us a disservice, but maybe they're also doing us a service, forcing us to come to a head on this.
But they're only doing us a service if we learn from it.
That's what I'm saying.
We certainly aren't fucking learning from it.
That's the problem. Is I don't want a civil war. I don't think anyone wants that. I don't think that's really a...
No, there's a portion of the population that wants that.
They do, but they're stupid.
Yes, but they will still fight it and they will still die for it. And a lot of other people will die because of it.
That's assuming that it happens. You say will. I know. You're looking at your hair past a freckle there. But
No. It's actually a new welt that has made a watch.
But again, we've decided, I think, or we've established that we are really not great predictors. We are not great predictors of the future. But if that happens and we do come to a head over it, hopefully it's not in a violent way, but it might be. It
already kind of is.
It is in some ways. Like, there's protests and violent
but
protests.
we're dealing with increased state violence against the citizenry.
And vice versa, citizenry.
But it's just so strange because, like...
against the state.
And I'll leave it at this as my final point to Cold War II, which we're in today. If you would have told me that people would not take a vaccine... I listened to these podcasts of what we had a year ago, right? Mm-hmm. So this is a strange meta discussion. And we made comments about, like, how the testing wasn't done right and the testing wasn't available. And if we only had better testing, then we could have better contact tracing. And to this day, we're still fighting this. And
a misinformed portion of the population is still fighting this.
Right, and I wouldn't believe this in a movie. I wouldn't believe that the electorate would be this stupid.
Oh, I believe it. Humans are dumb.
In a television
Mike is raising
show.
his hand for all you listeners. People are
Tiger's Guide to the Galaxy.
people are just dumb.
Well,
You had...
Don't underestimate our stupidity.
Yeah. There was a species that a British humorist made up that, because their planet was dying, they sent out all of these service members to colonize another planet. And then their planet died because they didn't have people to take care of it because they sent all their service members out to colonize another planet. And what happened when those service members colonized another planet? They turned it into just service. And that made us today.
that sounds about right. And that's very true. I also love Douglas Adams.
It was reading it as a kid, like, no, they can't be this dumb. As an adult, it's like, fuck, we're dumber.
No. How is this dumb? This is great. Service? A planet of just service. That seems like way more... that seems way better than the people they left behind that were clearly not, serving anything, right?
You need both to function.
No, you don't.
You kind of do.
No, the people who are just not serving are fucking parasites, and they should just go fuck themselves.
No, but
that's my thoughts.
In the ecological system of
That's
society,
the 1% that we can just let them eat themselves.
Well, in the book too, they
those would be the poor. We need the rich 1% to eat themselves, not
No.
consolidating their.
The rich aren't in service,
wealth.
though. That's what I'm saying. The rich aren't in service. They can go fuck themselves.
No, but they have
They can
capital,
go die.
and that means they're the most important service.
Nope, we can just...
Because
Nope.
they have capital.
Are you telling me trickle-down economics work? Because I don't think that it does. Capital's also a fiction.
That is why those
Money
that had
is a
the power
fiction.
destroyed their planet after they sent the service members away.
Yeah.
Because they felt that those service members weren't contributing. And then they
They
collapsed.
were wrong, clearly.
Yes, they were.
So, what I'm saying is... No, what I'm
But
saying
so
is
was
those...
the whole serving class was also wrong. You need both. You need a balance. You need a
the serving
symbiosis. And we don't have that symbiosis.
But the serving class survived.
No.
Didn't they?
Yeah, they turned into modern day humans.
Yeah.
And I, firmly black-pilled, can see our demise in our near future.
Well, I mean, it's most
Kidding?
likely,
After the
but-
first dirty bomb goes off, nukes will be falling everywhere.
I don't know.
I mean,
think so.
I don't disagree with your assessment because I think it's
do.
very rational.
I
But
The French Nazi made 4 dirty bombs in the last year, but was caught because he was on Perler.
Parlor.
It's an E. Fuck it.
I do think that there's a problem with people being just ridiculously stupid that I can never wrap my head around. But it's kind of like a self-correcting problem if I'm not going to be so rude. Like,
But our healthcare are too good, so it's not self-correcting because they still exist. They should die off, but they don't.
It's hard to kill an idea.
yeah. Maybe we're just screwed.
Yeah. Thank you. Would you like this black pill?
No,
of
I don't
increasing
think
nihilism?
we're screwed. I think for sure, like the
I mean, you
people
have
who
kids. It's
are.
gonna be way different for you. Than
Yeah, I
me.
can't
I feel
take
like the
it.
people who have to live
I gotta-
through it are certainly screwed, but I think the people who will come out at the end of it will be okay. I do think they will just humanity's gone through a lot
Well,
of
it's
shit.
that or backtrack into new tribalism.
Humanity has gone through a lot of shit, and we've come out on the other side of it, and then we've gone through more shit again.
We
and then
found
we come out on the
newer-
other. It's like a fucking
Human
endless
history-
waltz, Micah.
Yeah, human history boils down to 3 points:
A shitty
make
waltz.
more food, make more weapons, kill everyone else.
What's the fucking?
And things got worse.
No, yeah.
And
No,
then
it's-
things got worse.
It's
But it gets worse.
drumbeat of peace, revolution, war, or whatever it is, or war, revolution. I don't fucking.
That'd be war, peace, revolution.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Because you can't revolt in war. You need
War,
peace in which to grow
revolution.
discontent.
Yeah, sorry, some.
Yeah. No, there is certainly a waltz, but one thing we certainly learned from history is that we never learn any lessons from history.
This is true.
We keep doing that. Yeah.
It won't happen to us, said person with leg in bear trap.
Oh, it absolutely will. Merlin agrees.
So my prediction is that Cold War II is going to be the name of this time.
It'll be more impactful. It'll be the great.
It'll be the warm war.
The Warm War II.
No,
Yeah.
no.
the gross, clammy war.
I heard of this as like the climate wars, which I'm like,
It'll be the
great.
lip handshake war.
Lukewarm war.
It'll be the
No,
summer.
it's gonna be the
It'll
great eugenics war of the early 21st
No, it's
century.
gonna be the
as Gene Roddenberry declared in the 1960s.
No, it's gonna be the simmer war.
Simmer war.
Simmer war. And then we'll reach boiling at some point.
Yeah.
Anything to avoid hot war, even if two giant nations are in physical
and then
conflict
the fourth
with each
one
other.
will be hot war.
Yeah.
No, it'll be hot pocket because the internal conflict has cooled down so much that the outside is so hot.
I feel like the production value of the Fifth War is going to be really, really sad. As sequels kind of go on, they just don't have the energy and the budget. Just kind of like I don't know, just no one's real soul is into it. Sticks and stones type of thing. Not very good.
But General N.K. Jemisin definitely called it, and it'll be the 5th season more.
5th season.
That's a good book, by the way.
It is.
Absolutely.
Phenomenal. It's a phenomenal series.
It's super good. You should read it.
Okay. Thanks, Mom.
Also, so should you.
Thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Mom.
Stop.